Hey, what's going on? YST here. Welcome back to another raid video. Today we're going to be diving into one of the OG champions of raid, and that is Vizier Ovelis. I remember back in the day when I pulled this champion, he was the first legendary to push me to Ultra Nightmare, but there was a lot of things about his kit that I wish he didn't do. But now with the recent patch, we can prioritize our A1 and extend the debuffs for an infinite amount of turns so we don't have to worry about them falling off. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so if you have this champion, you may be aware that in some setups, you always wanted to spam the A1 before clicking auto because you wanted to make sure that all the debuffs was getting extended that you wanted to use. But with the implementation of this new patch where we can prioritize skills, you can select it to only do the A1 and only extend and get full use of Giant Slayer procs on the clan boss. So definitely a very good patch for Vizier, and his value has skyrocketed extremely. So the A2 and the A3, you can completely lock them out and just extend. But let's just go over his kit in case you're not aware of it. So on the A1, attacks one enemy 3 times, each has a 35% chance, 50% once booked, of increasing the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn. Very solid. So in your team, if you want to just extend your poisons, your HP burns, your decreased attack, your leech and all that good stuff, one of the best champions, and now possibly the best, of keeping those debuffs up completely, and you don't have to worry about them falling off ever again. And then on the A2, we have attacks one enemy 2 times, each has a 50% chance of placing a block buffs debuff and a 50% decreased attack debuff and a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. So on the clan boss, unless it's affinity, you do not want to take up our debuff slot using the block buffs, and we never want heal reduction on the clan boss. I don't know why Polarium hasn't taken this off. This has no use on the clan boss. But now with this kind of recent patch, you could use this once, get your decreased attack on and extend it. So he could kind of play as your decreased attack champion now. But of course, there's always that 50% chance of landing the debuffs that you don't want to land. And then on the A3, attacks one enemy, applies a debuff spread effect, taking 2 random debuffs from the target and placing them on all allies. This kit here is really good for the spiders den. If you stay tuned after the clan boss bit, I will show you in the spiders 25 dungeon where this can absolutely blow your mind. If you don't have an AoE HP burn champion, Vizier Ovelis is a really good champion to fill that spot for you. And then on the passive, places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each round, and then an aura of increased attack in dungeons by 34%. Overall, very solid champion, and I feel it's going to get a lot of use now that we can prioritize this A1 all of the time on the clan boss. So let's go into the gear that I'm using for this champion, and then we'll go into the team that I'm using him in. So we've got a double perception set and we've got a stalwart set. Because I am using leech on the team, I'm throwing him into a Deacon Armstrong composition. I'll card it above if you want to go and check that out, and all the speed tunes that you are required. But I will kind of show you briefly in this video of the champions that I'm using and their stats. But I won't be going into them in depth that I've done previously in other videos. But yeah, we got perception set with some speed. Then we got triple roll speed on the helmet. We got HP percent and speed here. We got defense on the boots with a nice triple roll speed here. We got HP percent on the chest plate. And then we got crit damage on the gloves with some nice crit rate roll and a bit of speed. You could potentially go defense percent or HP percent if you're struggling to stay alive. But definitely crit damage for me because I want to get full use of his damage over the turns that we're taking him in. Then we got accuracy on the banner, we got HP on the amulet, and we got defense on the ring to make full use of his sustainability. And then if we head into the masteries here, we've got the offense tree heading down to Giant Slayer. Then we got the defense tree heading down to Retribution. You could kind of go 2 ways. You could add deterrence and take off this one, the methodical, but because we're always using the A1, I kind of feel that this one here so increases the damage inflicted by this champion's default skill by 2% each time it's used during battle, stacks across each round in a battle up to 10%. This is really good, so you're going to get full use of that A1 and make sure you can hit a little bit harder over the period you're taking him into. And then overall stats that I'm rocking on Vizier is 48,000 HP, 2,800 attack, 2,800 defense. Once again, very low for Ultra Nightmare. I recommend 3,500 to 4,000 at a kind of minimum point if you kind of want to build a champion. But he is surviving pretty well for me in this composition today. And then we got a 201 speed, 62% crit rate, but I do have Farrakhan the Fat on the team who's increasing my crit rate on all of my champions. And then we got a 194% crit damage and a 259 accuracy, which is where we want to be to extend those debuffs on the clan boss. I just want to say, even in like a composition in Brutal, Nightmare, Ultra Nightmare, no matter where you are in this game and you have this champion, he's going to help you out dramatically now if you kind of use him in this way. And even if you don't have a decreased attack on the A1, you can use his A2 once and make sure he does the A1 after that and extend your decreased attack for as long as you want. So very viable champion now in all kind of areas of the clan boss, no matter where you are. Okay, so let's just briefly go over the other champions that I'm using today. As I said before, I'll link it in the description or throw a card above the screen of the full composition in depth and how it works, but I will briefly explain it in this video as well. So we're using Underpriest Brogni once again, and guys, I just want to clarify one thing in this video which a lot of people have been commenting and messaging me about. So let's talk about the recent patch and his A3, because a lot of people thought it was a visual bug with the Giant Slayer reflecting back to the clan boss. But in fact, that is how it was intended to work, guys. I've brought it up in creator chat and it has been confirmed that Underpriest Brogni's reflect is working as intended. So definitely bear that in mind. And the patch was about making it work even better than it was, because sometimes he wasn't healing correctly or sometimes he wasn't reflecting on certain turns. But that's all fixed now. Your Underpriest Brogni is ready to rock and roll. Don't worry about it. But on this champion, I've got broken sets. We've got perception, accuracy, immortal, and we've got 64,000 HP, 3,800 defense, 320 accuracy, and a 253 speed. And masteries, we got the offense and we got the defense tree and the Giant Slayer to reflect back to the clan boss. Next up, we got Iron Brago. This is a 2-to-1 team. The speed requirements are really fast, but today is just about showcasing Vizier in any kind of team that you're using. But if you want to replicate this one, go for it if you have the gear. But we've got a triple speed set on Iron Brago, and he's rocking at a 278 speed, 4,700 defense, 45,000 HP, and a 270 accuracy. And everyone is rocking a very similar mastery tree, but the difference is on these other champions I'm rocking War Master because they're doing a single target or double hits. Then next up here we got one of my favorite epics in the game, Deacon Armstrong once again. Overall stats on him, we got 53,000 HP, 3,400 defense, 226 speed, 44% crit rate, 100% crit damage, and a 298 accuracy to land that leech debuff. We only have to land it once because Vizier is going to be extending all of these debuffs, which is great. And he's got a Stalwart kit on him to make sure he could survive those AoE attacks. And masteries once again, defense and offense heading down to War Master. And the final champion of this composition is Farrakhan the Fat, once again in a Stalwart kit, because especially on his passive where he deflects 20% of all incoming damage this champion receives onto all allies, this ability here can hurt your champions quite a bit. So having it in the Stalwart kit kind of takes the heat off all of your allies because he's taking less damage. And then 29,000 HP, 3,700 defense, 252 speed, 53% crit rate, 110% crit damage, and a 237 accuracy. We are using the speed lead of Deacon Armstrong today because we need it to reach the 2-1 ratio, and also he does the turn meter manipulation of 15% and grants an extra turn, and he's got the leech on the A1 and decreased defense on the A2. So we need Deacon Armstrong in this comp today to make sure you can reach the 2-1 ratio, but there's definitely other champions you could possibly use. There's Michaud, Lydia, Seeker, lots of few options, but definitely Deacon is one of my favorites, and I don't really have some of the other champions, so I have to make do with what I have on my account. So let's just quickly dive into the skill prioritization of how I set it for, and then I'll tell you kind of the ways that you want to set it up in the clan boss depending on which affinity you're facing. So let's get into it. Alright, so what you want to do is head down to Vizier Ovelis in this team setup tab here, and you want to completely put here, don't use on the A2 and don't use on the A3. We only want to use the A1 on this champion to make full use of that extend and Giant Slayer procs. It's going to add up to extra damage on your champion and make sure that those debuffs never fall off for the entirety of the run. So his value surge has definitely shot up. I feel a lot of people are going to be using him, and I kind of prompt you to use him if you stopped using him in your clan boss team. So today it is a force affinity unfortunately, so Underpriest Brogni will be getting the stun, but I will explain to you how to take off the stun if you're not using a cleanser, because previously I've shown it with a Bad Alcazar or a Doom Priest, and that's kind of how I was cleansing the Deacon Armstrong. So Brogni is definitely one of those champions that's very versatile, and you can use him in lots of ways by a small tweak to your setup without changing the speeds whatsoever. So depending if you're facing Spirit Affinity and you want to block the decreased speed, or if you want to take the stuns off, or you want to make full use of just the AoEs and reflect the Giant Slayer back to the clan boss, lots of ways to use him. You just have to make a small tweak to your setups. But we're going to see the full value of Vizier today. I'm going to stop talking about Brogni and let's get into the run. Okay, so how I've set up here for Force Affinity, and it kind of works for Void as well. So I put the A1 on our Brago, and then we lead into the A3 of our Underpriest Brogni. And then I just like to use the HP burn and the poisons on our Farrakhan the Fat. Then decrease defense on our Deacon Armstrong. And then we hit the extend. And then for the hard part, we click auto and enjoy. It does sync around turn 6 to turn 7, and you're going to see that the stun target is going to be going on Brogni, so we don't have to worry about that. And he's going to be stunned only once in the entirety of the run, and that is on turn 6 on stun number 2, and that is going to sync him completely fine, and he's not going to be stunned again. and I think you're going to be very impressed with the damage that we managed to get this team. And if you want to prioritize taking the stun off your Deacon Armstrong, what you want to do is save the second rotation of the A2 on Underpriest Brogni for after Deacon Armstrong gets stunned. So every time he gets stunned, he's going to be able to cleanse it off in rotation, and it's going to work out completely fine for you. I will link the videos in the description like I said before if you want to check it in depth using a cleanser. But Underpriest Brogni is definitely very versatile. You can use him as your cleanser, you can use him as the Giant Slayer Reflection, you can use him in any way you want to, as long as you just make a tweak to the setup, throw it into Deadwood's calculator. It's there for a reason, and enjoy the damage, guys, and I'll come back to you towards the end. So 48.46 million, not bad, eh? So we got 5 million on Deacon Armstrong, Vizier Ovelis with 8 million, we got 6.6 million on Underpriest Brogni, Iron Braga with 9.95 million, and then we got 18 million on Farrakhan the Fat, because he was the initial person that put the HP burn and the poisons up. So Vizier was extending his debuffs, meaning that he was getting the most damage. But if Underpriest Brogni was the one that put the HP burn up first, you would have seen that his damage would have been the MVP. So definitely a very good outcome here, and it wouldn't have been possible without Vizier extending those debuffs. I have tried it without him, and it's roughly around the 40 million, so I got an 8 million plus damage compared to without him. Very great, and it's a good way to kind of bump up your damage in your clan boss team depending where you are in the game and whatever composition that you're using. So if you stay tuned till this point, let's just head into a Spider's Den dungeon, and we're going to showcase how Vizier Ovelis can shine there as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go into a Spider's 25 dungeon now. I'm not sure about speed farm, it's more about showcasing his kit than a speed farm team. But what you want to do is head into the skill prioritization once again, and on Vizier Ovelis, you want to make sure that he's opening up with this ability here. So he attacks one enemy, applies a debuff spread effect, taking 2 random debuffs from the target and placing them on all enemies. Then places a perfect veil buff on his champion for 3 turns if the target is under 2 or more debuffs. All we care about here is debuff spread. It's going to be able to put HP burn on all of the enemies. The only requirement is you need to have a HP burn on the A1 so we can make full use of the debuff spread. So Under Priest Brogni is one, you've got Bulwark, lots of options out there. The list goes on and on for loads of HP burn champions in this game. So let's get into this kind of run and this team here and see how it works out. So the way that I've set it up here, it should be able to work on full auto, and let's see how it plays out. So Brogni should be heading in with the A1 HP burn. There we go. And then we've got Attract the Wender in here to put the freeze out on everybody. And then there you go, debuff spread. And then we've got the Terminator manipulation from our Cold Heart. Let's see how this one plays out. So there we have it guys, 2 minutes 33 seconds, definitely with some tweaks you would be able to make it faster, possibly get through the first rotation before he even eats up the spiderlings for the first time. But did you see how many HP burns went up at the end? Because he's doing the debuff spread, all of the spiderlings had 8 turns of HP burn on that second rotation, so very impressive. And if you don't have an AoE HP burn champion, Vizier Ovelis will be able to extend your single target HP burn champion on all of the spiderlings and get you through these stages, so you can beat the progress mission once you reach them. So 10 million on Vizier there. It's just fun to watch, and definitely use him here if you don't have an AoE HP burn champion. So that's going to be all for the video guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. It does kind of help out my channel a lot more than you may think. And yeah, definitely use a cleanser in some scenarios. I usually use a Bad Alcazar, but we switched some of his gear onto Vizier today and it worked out really good for the team. So definitely use him in your composition if you have him. So I'll see you on the next one. Peace.